Hello and welcome back to Creating Space. My name is Martin Bone and this is episode 4. This was a great conversation. I had Craig in the studio. Craig's a high performance coach in his third decade of service to men. Over this time, Craig's been working with men from all walks of life, from top elite rugby professionals, high performance businessmen, to normal everyday blokes, holding space, helping and educating men to overcome perceived blockages in areas such as self-esteem, mission finding, sexuality, financial wealth, holistic health, weight loss, PTSD and conscious evolution. Craig has a significant level of experience in every area of human development and has a proven track record, which is a very, very long list. Hope you enjoyed this conversation. Without further ado, let me introduce Craig White.
I love doing yoga, I love doing a couple of classes a week.
Allow us to journey into these altered states.
It really whacked me psyche though, big time.
If you just sit reading books, it's the shadow because you're not going to be in your body.
Welcome to Creating Space, bringing people together. Real conversations with real people, telling stories and sharing our gifts right here in the heart of Liverpool, inspiring new ideas, education and co-creation.
Choose a challenge that lights you up and is going to make a difference in the world.
Creating Space.
Sponsored by the Scouse Guru app.
Hello and welcome back to Creating Space. My name is Martin Bone and this is episode 4. I've got a really great friend in the studio today, a boss pal of mine. I'd like to introduce and welcome Craig White. Some of you may already be familiar with Craig and his work. For those who are not, I'd like to just give a brief introduction. Craig is a high performance coach, mentor, retreat facilitator and team building consultant. He's got over 25 years of experience working predominantly in professional sports, mostly notably rugby. He's worked or consulted for more than 30 different rugby nations, perhaps more than any other coach in his field. He is widely respected around the world for his willingness to embrace different cultures and mentor developing staff within those countries. He is the founder of Craig White Mentoring, a company dedicated to the development of leadership, purposeful vision and interpersonal skill development within professional sports coaching. In recent years, he is also working within the field of men's health and wellness, offering private men's life coaching and group retreats. He is the creator of Men Without Masks, an organisation dedicated to support the lives of men who want to overcome limiting beliefs and move forward into a life of inspired purpose. Craig has dedicated most of his working life to the pursuit of learning how to improve performance and in more recent years how to cultivate a meaningful purpose in his life. His quest for learning has taken him from books and academia to gymnasium and rugby fields, to the ashrams of India, to the jungles of Asia, the mountains of South America, and ultimately from his head into his heart. I now present Craig White. Brother, welcome to the studio.
Wow, no pressure then. It's great to be here, Martin. It's amazing to see what you're doing in Liverpool at the moment with your stuff, with all your meditation, and I know that you're doing some coaching as well and some mentorship. And I haven't been here in Planet Yoga for maybe a year or so, or maybe a couple of years, and it's just incredible what's going on here. And I did that yoga class last night, and the energy of the place and how it looks, and yeah, it's and watching you with that group last night teaching your level 2 meditation, it's just incredible. And it really seems like Liverpool is an exciting place to be at the moment.
Very exciting. I've really loved watching the growth of the city over the last few years. Do you know what I mean? And being almost at the forefront of how this is unfolding for people, especially with the dynamic of meditation and yoga. Planet Yoga's we've been here now. This is our 8th year. And I remember when we opened up the studio and it was just full straight away. There was just this calling. I think a lot of people wanted to dive into the yoga. And certainly when I came back from Mexico and started to establish the the meditation journey here in Liverpool in 2017 in the January. It's been non-stop since, there's just been waves and waves and waves of people, and really what that's telling me is that people are ready. And I think with Liverpool as well, it's a bit more of a yes type of city. Do you know what I mean? People are up for it. So there's a great container here. There's a wonderful audience of people who want to explore new things, who want to try new stuff, and so I'm really lucky, in that respect, that there's people here who are willing to go to the edge, to learn a new language, I suppose, and really take a look at themselves. And so yeah, it's great to have you here. And I know you're here for a few days. We've got a really important business meeting, or with a few of the guys from Men Without Masks this evening and all day tomorrow. And yeah, it's just great to check in, and let's sort of take this back to the immediate past for a moment. I know you've just been in London there on a course with an incredible teacher and a mentor of yours, and as someone who you've been following for quite some time, Dr. DeMartini, John DeMartini. So let's start leaning into that, and let's see where it goes from there.
Yeah. I just came back from an intense 3 days in London. Learning is so important for me. I just have this real desire and this passion to learn. And it used to be for me. It used to be for selfish reasons, and now everything I learn, I invest a lot in my learning. It's all geared towards sharing it. So everything I've learned in my life, whilst at times before it might have been, well, how am I going to use that? It all seems to be coming together in this jigsaw and I'm just really excited to learn and to share with people all the different experiences I've had. So John is a human behavioural specialist and quite possibly one of the most inspirational men that I've ever met. And he has an incredible journey himself. And so I'm doing a number of trainings with him this year. The one I did recently was called Master Planning for Life. And it's very much in alignment with what I'm sharing in some of my intensives that I run with men. Mentorship intensives, and it's all around creating an inspired life, defining who we are or who we want to be, and defining clearly what drives us from the inside out, and our gifts and our strengths and what our purpose may be, and so creating that inspired, purposeful vision, having clarity around what drives us, creating major goals in life that are aligned with what drives us, not related to a fantasy, and really the kind of operations around that, and the daily focus it takes as well to create that vision and understand values and have an awareness of what's important and what actions are needed, and revisiting that on a daily basis, and becoming the creator really of life, the artist of life. I was raised to believe that you're raised in a certain town or a certain village and you're taught certain things and that's the way it is, and you've no choice really. You end up doing what mum and dad maybe wanted you to do, and I realise it's absolute bullshit. And so I'm moving into a life now, realizing more than ever that, hey, I'm the fucking artist here. I am the artist. This is my life. And maybe I had some limitations from the past, but I'm shedding them, and I'm realizing through spending time with people like John and inspiring people that, hey, if we believe it, and that's the key really, if we believe it, we can create the life that we want, exactly the way we want it. So the course was based around that really. So I'm kind of embodying that myself and working on it and projecting my own life and how I want that to look and what my purpose might be and how I can serve people and leave a legacy. And more importantly, which is a win-win for me, then enhancing my learning by teaching it to others.
Yeah, and that's such a beautiful thing, when you're diving into your own self-development and living an examined life and becoming empowered, but then really to share the gifts with others is a life worth living. That life of service is really powerful. And you mentioned purpose there. You know, I think there's a lot of people are just sort of, they're looking for purpose, aren't they? You know, they're looking for maybe the meaning of life, or they want direction. And I know with regards to Dr. Demartini, he does a process which sort of helps you to define purpose, and because it's when you know where you're going, then with that direction, you tend to flow in the direction of life, and it's got meaning and you're in flow. But for anyone out there who hasn't got purpose, and they're just dancing around life, it's not so fun, isn't it? And obviously you're sitting here and talking about being the master of your own experience, and really taking charge, and there's empowerment here. There's leadership qualities, and it's I for one have loved witnessing you as a man and as a friend and as a brother unfold and transform over the time I've known you, and you just keep getting better at it. Talk to me about purpose then. How do we design what is purposeful and meaningful to our lives?
Well, we all inherently strive for a purpose. Sometimes we might not recognize that, especially if we're suffering, if we're focusing on a place of lack, if we're stuck in the past, if we've been traumatized significantly and we haven't managed to let that go and reintegrate. And it can sometimes seem like there is no purpose to life. And I do believe that is the root of suffering. We all need a purpose. We all need to inherently have a reason why we open our eyes in the morning, we pull back the covers, and we get out of bed and put our shoes on. And if we don't have some kind of purpose, life becomes extremely difficult. And I do believe, with the work I've done on myself and the work I'm doing with men in high performance, but also with our men's work retreats, there's all sorts of manifest challenges and struggles, and they look differently, but ultimately, the root of suffering is that lack of clarity around what drives us and what is the reason we do what we do and we live the way we live. And without that, life can become very confusing. And also, if we don't define our own unique set of values and purpose, we will be living a life that is based on someone else's values and someone else's meaning of life. And that's usually mum, dad, family, society, school, influential figures from our past. And in a few cases, that could be incredible. You might have had a great upbringing and received incredible teachings, had incredible mentors, and you end up following a purpose like them. But in most cases, if we hang on to the values given to us from society and we believe we should be doing what we're doing based on the ideals of the collective where we've come from, it fucks us up, basically. We get confused because they're not our values. It's not our purpose. So we have to redefine our own purpose, and that can be quite a journey. And it may be for some people that they have to go through a period of time working out what is the purpose. So the purpose for them might be, for a while, to find the purpose. It's still a purpose. It's also interesting when we compare women and men as well. Women have this inherent capacity to have kids. It's this which gives them a purpose. Yeah. Of course that's changing. Society's changing, but still a lot of women, they have this inherent desire to have a child and to bring a child into the world, and it's an incredible purpose. And we don't have that as men. So that is one of the many reasons why men are more likely to commit suicide, because it's a little bit of more of a challenge to find a purpose in life. So purpose is incredibly important, and it can be quite a challenge. We have to kind of forgive the past. we have to move into the present, and then we have to feel into, what are the themes from my past? What are the joys from my past? What are the pain from my past? How is that pain driving me to purpose? A key message that I learned from John D. Martini, which is really, really important to share here, is that having an authentic purpose, it's not always driven by wanting to have a blissful life and joy. To be honest, having a meaningful purpose is driven by voids. It's driven by something that you think's missing in life, and it's usually driven by pain. For example, when I was a kid, my brother was 12 years older than me, and I didn't really have a close connection with him. And through my mum's language, I thought my dad was a weak man, and which he wasn't, but I perceived that. And so I had a real lack of male leadership in my life. I didn't think I had a brother. I also perceived that my brother bullied me. He didn't really. He was just reaching out for love from my father. But as a kid, I perceived that he was bullying me. So my life has been driven towards a connection with men to receive the leadership I didn't have, and also a connection with a group of brothers. Interestingly, when I was about 8, my brother, who was 20 at the time, went into the army, and I was devastated, and all of a sudden I didn't have a brother. And exactly at that time in my life, I started playing rugby in school, so I didn't think I had a brother, but actually the brothers came to me. So my life's been about seeking out brotherhood, and now my purpose is predominantly helping men to define their own purpose. So the theme of my life has been very much around filling the void of not having male leadership in my life and not having brothers in my life. And that's what I'm doing at the moment. It continues through my life. But to get that clarity, you have to join the dots of your past, feeling into your pain, but also feeling into your strengths and your gifts, and then morphing it into your own story and your own piece of art, really. So what I do now is, it used to be work, but what I do now is art.
Yeah.
It's a tapestry, it's a painting, it's a sculpture. It's, I'm designing life the way I want it, based on my own journey.
It takes a level of awakening and personal will to want to almost paint your own painting, doesn't it? To create your own story and to take control. And already you're talking about what is purposeful to you, and thank you for sharing that. And it takes time, doesn't it? It takes experience, it takes life experience. You gotta fail. You gotta fail big. You gotta learn them lessons. You gotta really go to your edge and explore different modalities and be okay with that. And I know you've, with the life you've led, you've come to this space in your life where you sit here today, and there's a level of, real clarity that you know exactly where you want to go in your life, and then you're sharing it and holding the space for other men to, to really determine what is valuable and purposeful to them. And I know, you weave in obviously your own experiences when you're teaching men, but when we're talking, even Martini, he does a values determination test, doesn't he? So it's a set of questions which gives people a bit of a map to understand what is meaningful to them. And then I suppose when you're placing your attention in them areas, then life is driven by purpose, isn't it?
For sure. Interestingly, we always have a purpose, but we don't always know what that is. For example, when we are born, our purpose is to receive love from mum, and intimacy and connection and heart-to-heart connection. And then we start to crawl, and our purpose is to eventually stand up and to walk. And then we develop some independence and boundaries, and our purpose is to kind of solidify our ego a little bit and get curious about what life is. And then, we're plonked into an educational establishment by mum and dad, and our purpose is to kind of learn a little about and prepare us for later on. And then maybe when we get into our teens, our purpose could be to relate in intimacy with people, and or maybe we start to take up a sport or an instrument, and then we get into our college life, and maybe if you go to college, your purpose is to, pass your exams, or maybe you start a job, and so there's always a purpose. But sometimes we don't define that, and sometimes we're not inherently sure about what drives us. We can say, "Oh, this is important to me. This is important to me, and this is important to me," but ultimately, values, they come from our life experiences. So, especially in the early years, we don't actually have a choice. Life is given to us, all these experiences happen, and then because values fill perceived voids, we're actually driven from the inside out based on a void. So, for example, if I want to have sex with 1,000 women before I'm 21, it's because I don't believe I've had enough sex, so there's a void. If I want to move into a job and become a billionaire, it's because I don't believe I've got enough money. There's a perceived void. If I want to do a PhD and then a second and a third PhD, it's because inside of me I perceive that I'm not clever enough, or I don't have enough knowledge. If I want to go to the gym every day and do hot yoga for 90 days without stopping, it's because I perceive that I'm not healthy and I'm not well enough. If I want to travel the world, inherently I get this drive. Do you know what? I don't know why, but I just love travel. Well, it's because I don't believe I've seen enough of the world. So, but unfortunately, it could also work negatively. We might have this drive to take drugs. Someone might become addicted to cocaine because he's got this inherent perceived void that there's not enough bliss in his life. There's not enough feeling of love and intimacy in his life, and maybe that person's driven towards feeling that rush from cocaine. But without knowing that, without knowing exactly what drives us, it can be incredibly confusing. And then once we know what drives us, that's why I'm doing that, that change can potentially start to happen.
And no one really, to actually take a look in the mirror and to understand why, what are the actions, what are the motivations behind your actions, why do you behave in certain ways? And I suppose a lot of it maybe does come from childhood wounding as well. These mantras of I'm not good enough, or it's my fault, and I'm not loved, I wasn't loved, that nobody's seen me, and I suppose they play out unconsciously. And I know you're really familiar with doing a lot of shadow work, and we integrate that into the retreats that we hold here in the UK. And I know you've sort of come back full circle because going back into your past, you started to talk about the rugby world there, and I'd like to just move towards that and then bring it full circle, because I know you've stepped away from rugby for a period of time, and I know you now work for World Rugby, and you were in the World Cup just last year with Uruguay. So I know that the model of coaching now, within the rugby dynamic has changed. As you weave in all of this magic on basically human behavior and your own personal experience with yoga, meditation, tantra, and there's a lot more in there, obviously, that I'd like to feel into, and it's all for the benefit of the listener. So yeah, let's work our way back the rugby.
Yeah, I have an interesting journey with rugby, and at the moment a beautiful relationship, but it wasn't always that way. So I started playing rugby at the age of 8, and I come from Wigan, so it was a rugby league town, and everything was geared towards playing rugby league. The schools I went to, you were expected to play rugby, but fast forwarding to, I guess, my professional career, I always thought I would be a professional rugby player. It didn't happen, and then I kind of went off the rails a little bit as a teenager, a late teenager, finding out what I wanted to do, and eventually I ended up going back to uni as a mature student here in Liverpool, actually, at John Moores University, and then for the last 25 years I've had some involvement at the top level in professional rugby. I've worked for Wasps, Leicester Tigers. I worked a little bit for Bolton Wanderers, actually, in the Football Premiership in between. And then I've worked for Ireland, I've worked for Wales, I've worked for the British and Irish Lions. And I've consulted for a number of years now with the organisation that run the sport, World Rugby, and that's been a fascinating journey. I've consulted for many organisations and teams and different cultures. And for example, Uruguay, I was with Uruguay in the World Cup. I've consulted with Namibia, with Georgia, with Russia, with Romania, with Portugal, with on the Seven Seas with Kenya and many others. And it's been a great experience because I love to travel as well. But just coming back to the topic of what we're kind of discussing here, my early days in rugby, i.e. the first 15 years of my career, I was so fucking driven. It was like, man, I was so driven. I was also really fucking angry, but I didn't realise that, and I used to just drive forwards with that anger and bulldoze people and steamroll over people, and I used to love conflict and arguing, and I was in the working 5:30 in the morning. I was home at 6, and I wanted to be the best, and that was my driver. I just wanted to be the best for me, and I would do everything that was required for that, everything. And when I was about 12 years ago, I was working as a performance coach, performance director with the Welsh rugby team, and everything was going well. I was earning good money, good car, beautiful wife, nice house, prestigious. From the outside looking in, everything was great. And then my ex-wife Marta asked me to go on a yoga retreat. Now I'd read a few books on spirituality and Buddhism, so I didn't know why, but something was driving me to read about stuff like that. I didn't really tell anybody, but I was into it. But yoga was like, whoa, really? Yoga? And I thought yoga was just a bunch of stretches. And I was reluctant to go, and she begged me. She was really, really into it. And so I went. And this stiff, kind of athletic guy with muscles, and I went, and it was a month. It wasn't just a yoga retreat with 5-star and spa. It was a proper hardcore yoga retreat. It was in Thailand with this Indian Swami, this Indian guru, and it was a month. And it was, you get up in the morning, you do all these purification exercises like cleaning your nose out and your throat and gargling salt and putting salt into your nose and washing your eyes out and making yourself vomit and crazy things like this. And then there'd be 2 yoga classes a day. There'd be meditation every day and like a 3-hour lecture in the evening time. And it was tough, but cut a long story short, it fucking blew my mind wide open. It was probably the most significant block of time of my life. There was some pain because every time I closed my eyes and I was quiet, instead of working my tits off, just tried to sit there and quiet and stay in the postures, of course stuff came up from my unconscious, and I was agitated. The anger came up, sadness came up, and it was like, whoa, what the fuck's going on here? At other times it was just this incredible peace and this incredible joy and this incredible expansion. And listening to some of the lectures in the evening time, it was like, wow, where's this information been all my life? This is incredible. I thought I was this guy from Wigan with these characteristics and this identity, and man, there's so much more to life. And I was excited when I left. But when I went back into my job with the Welsh rugby team at the time, where I'd been 5 weeks earlier, I'm sat on my desk and I'm looking around and I'm thinking, I don't belong here. What the fuck are you talking about? Like, that's bullshit. And I couldn't relate to the people around me within that environment for a time.
The integration periods can be quite difficult, can't it? Going away, being in a dynamic which is completely different from the setting that you've been in for all them years previous. A lad from Wigan, I suppose, and then being in Thailand, like sitting still, tasting the direct experience of peacefulness and you know, and joy and yeah, having these experiences, getting into the body. You know, yoga's about that. It's embodiment, isn't it? You know, and obviously the lectures, new language, new understanding, and I suppose, you know, you were definitely into all that, you know, human behaviour, and obviously being a top sports coach at the time, and then coming back. Sometimes the integration period is quite difficult, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, there's a moment where you think, wow,
Yeah.
what's this about? You know what I mean? Have I been living this life? You know, it's an awakening, really, isn't it?
It was a big awakening.
Yeah.
And I couldn't relate to anybody. And instead of owning it and going inside and working it out for myself, and you know, I viewed it as this crisis. And I used to project my pain onto others. Well, he's a fucking idiot, and he's an idiot, and this job's shit, and rugby's fucking egoic. And so I was giving it all away instead of owning it myself for a while. And I was going home from work in the evening time and crying and not telling anybody about it. The only person who knew about it was my wife, and it was like, but because I didn't know what was going on, it was like, what the fuck is happening here? I can't give this job up.
And what was pulling you? It was the money. It was the money, the status, the image,
the money
the
was
ego,
keeping me there. The money and the image and what people would, the classic one, the classic wound. What will other people think?
Yeah.
But in the end, I had no choice. Like about a year later, to be honest, I'd been planning my exit strategy for a while. But about a year later, I remember talking to the head coach, an incredible mentor of mine over the years, Warren Gatland, and it kind of came out from my gut. It was like, Warren, fucking hell. I said, Warren, I'm going to have to leave, mate. I remember being in his office. I said, I'm done with rugby, mate. I'm fucking done. and at this stage, I was still blaming rugby instead of myself. I said, I'm fucking done with rugby. I can't do this, mate. Can't. Coaching meant to carry a white leather ball over a white line and put it down. I said, can't do that, mate. It doesn't have any meaning for me. And that was painful, but it's significant because it took me on a really crazy, extreme, incredible journey of self-discovery. And I explored therapy, different coaches, loads of retreats. I became a yoga teacher, a meditation teacher. I did loads of yoga retreats. Over the years, I did different detox retreats, purification retreats, fasting retreats. Once I fasted on water for 21 days. Once I meditated in complete darkness for 10 days. I've done lots of extreme hiking, and it was just to kind of feel into myself a bit more and understand that what was coming up from my mind, and explore the past and my relationship to the past, and why my dad was the way he was, and why my mum was the way he was, and why my brother was the way he was, and where that came from, and who taught them, and who hurt them, and so on and so on and so on. And it was a great journey that I went on, and it was a painful journey.
And how long did
at
this
times.
last, Craig? You know, it's a...
Well, it never stops, to
Yeah,
be
of
honest,
course,
Martin.
absolutely.
But it was, what was really significant was about maybe a 5 to 6 year period. And what was happening during that time, I was actually, I did stop working in rugby for 6 months, and I went to live in Thailand. But after 6 months, I got approached by World Rugby to consult for them. So for about 5 or 6 years, I was living my life doing a bit of consultancy for World Rugby, not enjoying it at the time, but getting the money and then doing some self-development.
Yeah.
And that's where my life was. It was like, get the money, find more about yourself, get the money, find more about yourself. And about 4 years ago, where I was confused about my relationship with rugby a little bit, I created something called Men Without Masks, which is a kind of organisation where we run men's retreats. And we help men to kind of redefine their life and move into a life of inspired purpose. And I created it when I didn't have a great relationship with rugby, because it actually replaced what I used to get from the teams I used to work with. But over time, what I've managed to do, which I'm so pleased about, is I've managed to redefine why I work in rugby. So looking back, rugby wasn't the problem. The problem was my meaning for working in rugby. I used to work in rugby for myself to get better and to be this best guy in the world and to win trophies and be prestigious and get famous. And that was squashed after the Euro experience. It was like, that's bullshit. What the fuck is it about? And now, thankfully, I've managed to redefine my purpose of working in rugby, and it's very much centered around building culture and building safety in teams, encouraging open dialogue and communication, helping men to speak up, helping men to realize that it's okay to be this warrior, this domineering warrior, if we also have the opposite of this kind of intimacy and this vulnerability and this loving energy, and not hiding those parts and bringing them out into the open, and also exploring recovery methods around breath work and meditation and mindfulness. And so because I've moved on myself and I'm owning more parts of myself, and I'm admitting that, yes, I do have this fire, this warrior, but I also have this lover inside, and this curious spiritual side of me, and this leader inside. And because I'm bringing it all now, I'm seeing the rugby coaches and players that I work with bring it as well.
Yeah,
so it's wonderful what I'm seeing in my work in rugby at the moment.
Because I know Uruguay had they had a lot of success with this sort of method. There's a methodology, isn't there? You know, and how was it received with them players? You know, in that dynamic.
It's interesting actually, because bringing that whole cultural piece and, you know, challenging them to define what's important to them and why they do what they do, and linking that to a greater cause, it can be a challenge. And also bringing this kind of mindfulness approach as well. I remember when I first started, I worked with Uruguay on off over the years, the last 2 World Cups actually, but before this World Cup, a year and a half out, I remember coming into it with this different mindset, knowing what I wanted to bring, which was different from the previous World Cup. And of course I was open to it, but I remember some of the first workshops that we did, and you know, a few of the coaches would say things like, well, are you sure the guys are going to open up? I'm not sure about this, you know what I mean? Mate, if they open up, you deserve a gold medal. And, you know, and what was happening? It was just their own fears.
Yeah.
They were projecting their own fears.
Yeah.
But again,
skeptical,
cutting along,
suspicious. Yeah.
But the players are sponges.
Yeah.
And it was incredible. And there was openness, and there was joy, and there was tears, and there was connection, and that breeds safety and strength and trust within the group. And
especially for men, they're starving for vulnerability, aren't they, to let go, and, you know, and to be able to come together as a team, as men, as brothers, and to explore that way of life, not just on the field but off the field. And you had a massive win, didn't you, against was it Fiji?
Against Fiji, yeah. It was an incredible experience actually.
And what that does for a nation is it's huge, isn't it?
Yeah, it's beautiful. And I see those players, some of them are kind of, a few of them are retiring, but they're retiring rugby players, but better fathers, better sons, better brothers, better people.
Better men.
Men. And it's amazing to see. And sport is an incredible platform to facilitate change.
Yeah.
As businesses, and of course there is an egoic side to sport, but there's also a potential for consciousness to expand.
Yeah.
And if we go back to the origins of sport in Greece, the Olympic Games were created as this divine expression of humanity. It was an expression. It was a grateful expression to life, really. And that is the root of sport. It's divine expression. Yeah. And part of my mission's bringing that back.
Yeah. Can you give me an example, and for the benefit of the listeners as well? What are the formalities? What are some of the things that you explore within the dynamic of what you're offering now as a coach and as a mentor, especially within the rugby dynamic? You know, what was you doing with the men?
Yeah, I guess I guess my point of difference, or in a positive sense, my unique point of difference is based on my training and my experience, the holistic way that I look at things. So I can look at the physical aspect because I was a strength and conditioning coach. I have a master's degree in exercise physiology. I can look at the nutritional perspective. I also have a master's degree in nutrition. I can look at the mental side because of my training in life coaching and mindfulness and meditation and yoga and the whole recovery side. And also I used to play rugby, and I was actually a rugby league coach at the age of 16. So I can look at things holistically, and know kind of what to focus on. So that's kind of the holistic approach. So I'm able to coach if I have to coach as well, especially within the kind of domain of the physical side. In relation to the bigger picture stuff, I mean, people talk a lot about culture. Ultimately, for me, culture is about creating safety in a team, creating safety, intimacy, and trust in a team. And then from that place of safety and trust, experimenting, playing with the edge, trying something different, maybe saying something that you wouldn't have said if you didn't feel safe, and exploring our edges. And then ultimately from that, moving on to the next level, which is, accelerated learning and behavioural change and increased performance. So there's that big
the whole ripple effect, isn't it?
piece.
Yeah, that comes from.
And driving on from that, there's establishing the purpose and the high performance rules, because it's an organisation, it needs rules. This is our purpose, this is what drives us. But in order to get there, what are our rules of behaviour? And it's not a matter of, and this is done in business, and I do this with private clients as well in relation to their life. But it's not about me giving them the answers. It's about me pulling all of that out of them. Yeah. So that they create the purpose, they create the vision, they establish their common drivers, they establish the big goals, and they establish the rules, which also includes the rules of communication, of course, which is massive. So one area that I'm moving into a lot, and I'm currently creating a mentorship program, which will be a certification program and an online program, is around this topic of interpersonal skills and communication.
Lovely. And you're talking about creating this safety. And it's something as simple as sitting in a circle with men and having some simple formalities where men can be heard, they can speak their truth, and they can express what's alive for them. And what I also love what you're talking about there is, as a coach and a very mature way of coaching other people, is holding the space for the client or the player, whatever it is, to feel into their gifts, to bring their treasure out. We've all got this treasure trove, haven't we, and of gifts and potential. And I suppose what a real great coach does is bring that out, and obviously you're using all of your tools of which is holistic, the yoga, the meditation, the nutrition, the strength and conditioning, and it's a whole package, isn't it? And I know you even weave in a lot of the understanding around Jungian psychology, the archetypes, the king, the warrior, the magician, and lover, which is an incredible map for us, isn't it? For us to, I suppose, walk the terrain of our existence. And I know we've got another podcast coming up, and we're going to be leaning more into that dimension. So thank you for sharing that so far. And I know you ended up in Mexico, didn't you, doing a teacher training course, and then you ended up on the staff, and so being a World Rugby coach and mentor on these high profile players, and then actually moving into holding space for people to explore the realm of yoga and meditation, and then fortunately for me, that's how we met, really. I remember you walked into Planet Yoga in 2014, and I know you were in Liverpool for a short time, and you were doing some bits and bobs here, and we actually started to dive into a little bit of men's work, and I was actually in a place where I was looking to do a bit of traveling. I was deep in the exploration. I was experimenting, and I know you know all about that. And actually, you were probably the first man who really understood maybe where I was and actually seen my potential. And fortunately, I was able to get a space on the teacher training course. Literally, it wasn't long after. It was just a few months. I think you walked in to Planet in the March, and by the September, I was in Mexico, and exploring that journey that you had explored previous, and now you were this teacher on the course, and that for me was, it was really nourishing, and I am sitting here today, and I've, exploring the work of holding space for meditation and education and inspiration. Because of that journey, within Mexico, I felt like Mexico really gave me a lot of reference points for the journey that was unfolding for me previous. There was a lot of blossom and a lot of change, and some of it's not easy, Craig, is it? People think maybe, it's an easy ride, and it's sparkling, it's rainbows, and to really start to dive into like spirituality, I suppose, and to oneself, it's a taboo subject to look in the mirror, isn't it? And to to own the shadow. And I know you were speaking before about taking responsibility, and actually when I got to Mexico and started to dive into this whole new way of being, really, and it was a 90-day course. It was a process of really diving into oneself, using the medium of meditation. How's meditation served you in your life, and moving sort of forward from 2016, 2017 to today? Do you practice daily with your meditation, and how do you, what maybe modalities have you explored, to help you continue to grow as a person?
Yeah, meditation means something to me now, which it may not have meant to me before. Now it's just, I don't know, it's almost wordless now. It just is. It's just infused into every moment, really, and I have some tools to kind of always bring me back there if I forget. I remember maybe 2002, I was living in London. I was working for London Wasps. I was living in West London, and I remember going every day. I used to go on my scooter and go back to this meditation place and think, that's a bit weird. And all them people meditating. And once I had something was driving me inside, this curiosity, and I remember knocking on the door one day and going in. I can't remember, it could have been TM, I'm not sure. I remember going in with this group and meditating and feeling really fucking uncomfortable, and then having a one-to-one with this lady, and I couldn't keep still. I just couldn't keep still, but it ignited something in me. I remember I saw it actually before that in 1998. Warren Gatland, the coach of Ireland, it was just right at the start of professionalism. It just shows how forward thinking he is. He brought some TM people in, transcendental meditation, and with these kind of buff rugby players, and they were speaking to us about meditation. And then if you wanted to do it, you had to go in a room and bring some flowers and some incense and receive a mantra, and it was all really, really weird, and it freaked some of them out, but I loved it. And there was about 8 or 9 of us meditated every morning. I remember a few people in there. There was a guy called Eric Elwood in there, he used to play for Ireland. Eric Miller, Andy Ward. There was a few of us in. And that was really the start of it, I guess. But really, for a number of years, I was just delving in and delving out, and I didn't really have a practice. It was only really when I did my first silent meditation retreat, and I've done a number of 10-day silent meditation retreats, that I really got into it. I remember being in Thailand, actually. I can't remember what year it was. And it was the first time I'd sat in a 10-day meditation retreat. It was tough, sitting for so long and being quiet and not speaking. And But I remember one meditation technique where I dropped into the heart, and it was about, we'd done a lot of heart practices, at the basic level, just focusing on your heart, breathing into your heart, breathing feelings into your heart, gratitude, and it was all about the heart. And one practice we did was imagine that another person is in front of you, and when you inhale, you're breathing in any suffering, you're pausing, the suffering disperses, and then you breathe out, you send love to that person.
The practice of Tonglen.
Tonglen, yeah, a Buddhist meditation. And I remember in this meditation retreat doing it on my mum. Imagine that my mum was in front of me. And I had this incredible experience.
Wow.
It's like somebody ripped open my chest and pulled it open, and this vast, this fucking giant heart with beaming energy of love came out, and I cried, and there was tears, and then there was this inner knowing that I could have gone deeper, but there was also a little bit of fear around going deeper. And there's been a number of experiences like that, Martin, in meditation retreats, and it's those peak experiences that are not something to chase, but those peak experiences for me enable me to realize more and more and more the value of meditation.
Yeah.
So it's very exponential with me. The older I get, the more regularly I meditate, and I do meditate most days. And now I have a morning practice that works for me.
Yeah, ultimate morning. Yeah. And thank you for bringing that up, because I really feel like having what I feel like maybe is lost in the West, I suppose, and I was never really brought up with a sacred practice, you know what I mean? To get up of a morning and to have some sort of practice of a morning, which enables me to feel into myself, to examine. And what my understanding now is of meditation is to go home to a naturalness, really, and to observe what's truly going on. Meditation, mindfulness has been a buzzword, hasn't it, for quite some time, and I feel as if I was always looking for something, but I didn't know what I was looking for. And with the practice of meditation and having some simple mindful techniques, it's really been a container for me to level up on all levels, but also come home to oneself and to have this sacred practice of a morning, this ultimate morning program, which for me lasts a couple of hours, really, getting into the body, stretching the mind, connecting to the breath, some cold water therapy in there. And it's almost like you're plugging in for the day, aren't you? You're getting off on the right foot, you're creating momentum. It's things like you wouldn't really leave the house without brushing your teeth. Do you know what I mean? It's just such an ingrained habit. Most people maybe wouldn't leave the house without plugging, going out with a full battery on the phone. It's certain things. But when we really look at this is our greatest instrument, really, and we're talking about the art of living, the art of how to be. When I feel like we're plugging in of a morning, we have a simple practice of meditation, it really sets the tone, and when the cup is full, it allows us to go out into the world. I've got a massive spring in my step most days, if not every day. I'm high-fiving the world. I feel like full of energy. I'm enthused, I'm game. I'm in. There's very much this. I'm falling in love with the world. I'm saying yes to the world, and I really put it down to this magical practice of meditation. And thank you for sharing your story, because I also, when I look back, and it is when you connect the dots. And I've sat in meditation. I've done thousands and thousands of hours of personal practice and teacher training, and my own journey with silent retreats, 10-day retreats. And I remember that there has been certain moments, these pockets of moments, big realizations, you taste the fruit directly. And that's what the practices are going to offer anybody, who is willing to explore and cultivate a meditation experiences. You get the direct experience, and you can't deny it, can you? It's undeniable, and sometimes it's undescribable. Yeah. And you having this experience in Thailand, with such a wonderful practice coming into the heart. We're so cerebral nowadays, aren't we? We're very much in the intellect, and it is one level of our intelligence. But when we're really coming into the heart space, and even the gut, the instinct, we start to realise that there's a magic in there, and there's a devotion. There's also an inner stillness, and as we reveal in the practice of meditation, which is nothing but profound, it's and that's why I'm here today. I love teaching the practice. Some simple mindful techniques can actually just help people to settle the analytical mind and inevitably just take them back to a naturalness. Modern times and high-speed living's causing us to be so fast nowadays and right in the top of the intellect, and overthinking and psychologically overthinking's really taking us away from a naturalness, isn't it, Craig? And it's taking us, away from this feeling of coherence, flow. And I know you've dived into many practices, and you're very familiar with the powers of the heart space, aren't you? You're familiar with an institute called HeartMath in the USA, and it's certainly with the stuff you've explored. Was it with Sahaja? Was it the
with a yoga school called Hridaya?
That's right, yeah, in Thailand, and I know you.
Yeah, and now it's in Mexico.
Yeah. And it's all about the heart space, really, isn't it? So, yeah. Do you want to elaborate on that?
It's interesting. First, what you say about the ultimate morning. I'm living life, but I'm also an observer of my life. My own artist, my own scientist, and I see quite clearly, because I do a lot of traveling, when I'm kind of traveling or I'm jet lagged and I don't religiously have a fixed routine in the morning, it does affect me negatively. I know that. And when I have a routine, it does affect me positively. Now I'm in the UK for a good block of time, and I'm back into a routine. So I'm up in the morning, I open my eyes, I set an intention, I breathe into that, I give a gratitude, and then I check my heart rate variability with a heart rate strap and an app. It gives me an indication of my nervous system and where it's at, whether I'm overstressed or whether I'm understressed. And then I'll do some breath work, and then after the breath work, I'll meditate, and I'll do some vision work, and then cold shower. And then I'm into my preview of the day and establishing my priorities. And once it becomes a habit, it really is like rocket fuel. Yeah. It really is. And it's such
any coffee, isn't it?
Tip, a high performance tip.
Yeah.
That all the successful high performance people in the world would give the same tip.
It's almost a blind spot in society with having a sacred ultimate morning, and whatever that means to anybody really, but just having a bit of time. I know some people they want that extra 10 or 15, 20 minutes in bed, they're rolling over, and there's just these unhealthy habits, jumping out of bed, quick piece of toast out the door, and there's nothing there really, is there, to create space. We're talking about
most people
here.
Open their eyes and check the phone.
Yeah.
If you open your eyes and you check the phone and the first thing you see is a negative message, your day is going to be shit.
Yeah.
Because your day is fueled by the energetics of that first hour.
Yeah, absolutely. You win your first hour, you really win the day, don't you?
For sure.
I know where a lot of people, unfortunately, it's a natural default to check the phone, and they've gone into this. They're searching for a dopamine hit, aren't they? Whether it's being a like on Instagram, on Facebook, and it's we're talking about not just creating space of a morning, but also learning to have some healthy boundaries around, maybe the phone, and the way we behave. And when you start to set some healthy boundaries around your life and creating space for you, because you got to put your own oxygen mask on first, really, haven't you? And when no one else is going to bang your drum, no one else is getting you out of bed, no one else is driving you to the gym or making you breakfast. It's all about you, and it comes back to taking responsibility. And it's not easy to cultivate a morning routine or, you know, these healthy habits, because you've got to disturb some unhealthy habits first. And there's a period of confusion, and we've really got to draw upon our willpower, haven't we, and our determination. But once you get motoring with it, it just becomes a way of life, really, doesn't it? You know, we're talking about a lifestyle.
Yeah.
And you can't deny the afterglow, can you? You can't deny the feeling tone of enthusiasm and a lightness of being, you know, this, you know, talking about this positivity and it's these are the traits really that of when we're exploring these traits. This is a wealthy man, you know, a wealthy person. You know, you feel enriched, don't you? You know,
I mean, wealth in itself is an interesting concept, and what I learned from John DeMartini is there are multiple levels of wealth, and sometimes, especially men, a lot of the men that I know of, especially from the past, there's this negativity around, I don't have a lot of money, I'm not good enough. And what I learned from John is it comes on multiple levels, you know. We may have an incredible bank account spiritually. We may feel spiritual, connected to something great, loving, kind. We may have a large bank account mentally. We might have a lot of knowledge and wisdom and things to share and a healthy mind, and we could be wealthy in terms of our vocation. You know, I love what I do for a job. I'm rich. We could have a wealthy bank account financially. We could have a wealthy account with our family life and our intimate relationships and how we connect with family. And we could have wealth socially, the social connections we've got around the world. And also physically, we might have a lot of physical wealth. You know, we might have a strong, stable, mobile, energetic body. So wealth really comes on multiple levels. Unfortunately, we've been conditioned to see it only from a financial perspective. And there's nothing wrong with money. Money's a beautiful energetic. But there are multiple levels of wealth that we can look at. We can look at and assess ourselves on.
And I know you weave that into your coaching, especially with the dynamic of Men Without Masks. You know, we take men on a 5-day retreat. How did that dynamic really start to come online, and, you know, of holding space in that way for men? You know, because I know there was, we started to explore it just before Mexico around 2016, and then to where it is today. How's that journey unfolded?
Well, one thread is that I've always been comfortable in groups of men.
Yeah.
You know, from the age of 8. So that's definitely a thread. And the thread I mentioned earlier was that pain of not really believing I had brothers and male role models in my life as well. So that's a thread. In relation to, if you like, how the retreat was formed, I guess, you know, 4 or 5 years ago, when I was in a place of not really loving rugby and not really believing I was going to work that much in rugby, I was in a place of, well, what the fuck shall I do? And it just made sense when I was actually working with a coach, and it just made sense. He guided me to join the dots and put everything together and realize that, well, even though it might not be rugby, it still should be men. And it still should be men in groups coming together with a common theme, looking for empowerment, looking for clarity, related to how they were going to perform when they left the retreat. So it was kind of around that. And in relation to circles, when I went back to Thailand to do yoga, you know, I was actually part of a men's group. You know, me and my wife were doing yoga, but every Saturday and Sunday there were men's groups. And it was new to me, and we sat in circle and we talked, and I thought, wow, this is powerful. Scary, but incredibly powerful. And I remember one session we did on the archetypes of man, king, warrior, lover, magician. What's this?
It was the first time you'd ever heard that?
Yeah. In a yoga school in Thailand. And then I did some trainings with a great organisation called the Mankind Project.
Yeah.
That have been doing incredible work with men for many years. And again, it was based on the archetypes, a map that was presented in order for men to understand their own psyche, And that fascinated me again. So I just kind of joined the dots of men, circles, archetypes, yoga, meditation, shadow work, which is helping people to understand some of the parts of themselves that they've not yet integrated.
Yeah.
Journaling, interpersonal communication, dynamic movement, nature. It was just a jigsaw of everything that I'd experienced in my life, created it into what now, as you and I know, is like theatre and art. It was it's a piece of art.
Absolutely.
It's a piece of art that helps men to gain more clarity and leave with a greater understand. Some men leave with a greater understanding of the life. Some men leave with a renewed purpose. Some men leave with the confidence to make a big decision. Some men leave with confidence and joy around going into fatherhood. Some men leave thinking, do you know what, I actually wasn't as bad as what I thought. There's multiple outcomes, but the retreat is just a space where men can come to understand each other
and there's
connect.
A complete eclectic mix of fellas who come, isn't there? From complete, it's not just all broken geezers, is it? You know what I mean? The really high performance, coaches and mentors and businessmen, and being a part of this dynamic now, Men Without Masks, and what we've been doing over the last few years, and how it's developed. It's got its own sort of spirit now, hasn't it? And we've, we come together and we're just holding space, aren't we? Really, we're just holding space, and exploring, and sharing our own gifts as teachers. And I know within the retreat dynamic, I do a lot of the meditation and the yoga. But just being there and sitting in circle and educating these men, and it's a 5-day journey, isn't it? And we need that time, don't we? It's intense, and it's radical, but it's the dynamic where 12, 13 men come together, they're in a space over a 5-day period, away from the phones, no external disturbances, and to build that container, and I, for one, have probably the best part of the job is to witness these men unfold over the period of time, and then to see them
and ourselves.
Absolutely, the work continues to offer me an incredible support structure of how to behave as a man, and every time I come back from retreat holding the space, I've actually been on the retreat myself, and I receive the magic, and it gets better every time. And I think we've done probably 10, 12, 15 retreats now over the last few years, and I know from my own journey, I come home and I feel more of a man each time. It takes time to mature into manhood, and as you said before, it never really stops, this refining and this rediscovering and this integration as well. You mentioned there of some of that darker side that we don't really want to take a look at, and when I'm better as a man, my environment becomes better, and there's people say, they can smell you. They just, what are you doing? You look great. You're inspiring. You look relaxed. You move into this natural, authentic leadership, and I know that's what it's done for me as an individual. And I think it's just really honourable, and I'm really proud of what I'm involved in and how it's and what it's become, Men Without Masks. I know we've got a lovely retreat coming up this year, and we're going to Peru. We've got a King retreat, and it's just a measure of how Men Without Masks is just taking on a new dynamic, which I'm really looking forward to sharing in the other retreat. And let's not forget, the other men who work, within the dynamic. We've got Andy Kershaw, who's a personal friend of both of ours, and an ex-rugby professional, someone you've known for a very long time, and Andy Downs, who's the sort of, the guy in the background doing all the analytics and, the social media, all that kind of stuff. So it's becoming it's a fully functioning organisation now, isn't it?
It is. We've got a retreat coming up in April, actually.
Yeah, we have.
And the King retreat, which is a new one that we're doing, which is 10 days, including the Classic Inga Trail to Machu Picchu. That is in May. So it's nice to see how things are growing, and we're going to start to do more one-day immersions in the city of Liverpool, which is really exciting and gives us an opportunity to actually spread the message and do some work with a greater number of men within the retreats. Because of the nature of the retreats, we're kind of limited to 13, 14 men, but we can really work with 50 to 100 men in one-day events in Liverpool, which I'm really looking forward to.
I think as well, I'd like to just bring online for a moment. There's a group of men now in Liverpool that we call ourselves the 3%, and I think there's about 35 members in the group, and it's just this container of men coming together, wanting to hold space for each other, and there's a common thread moving through the group of just a lot of respect, a lot of maturity, a lot of leveling up, and it's great to be a part of. I remember a few years ago in Liverpool, and I felt very lonely. I felt like there wasn't a support structure of men, and obviously I had my own friends, that I used to maybe go clubbing with and get on the dancing scene, and and obviously there's football teams and the sports teams and all kind, boxing clubs and all that kind of stuff. But it's becoming a little bit more cool now, isn't it? Actually, to be together as men and to be vulnerable. I think we're starving for vulnerability, aren't we? We're starving for blessing, and I suppose this is why the suicide rate is through the roof, and even if we look at some statistics for a moment, the UK prison population is like, it's 85,000, and it's like 79,000 of that is male. It's male related, and 5 out of every 6 arrests are male related, and 76% of homeless people are men. So it's like, what's really going on here within the dynamic of manhood? And I know some of the work we've done, we're talking about initiation, aren't we? We're talking about coming together, having happy, holy, strong men to hold space, and to reconnect. But it's seen, you mentioned men's circles, and most men go, there's such a stigma attached to you, you're gay, or you're a pussy, and really on the deepest level, we have got this nature of this holistic nature. I mean, women are a lot, they're generally a lot more holistic than men, but we're just as soft and tender and loving when we maybe have a container to explore.
We are, and every human on the every human on the planet, I believe, has this desire to be seen, and this desire to be heard, and this desire to be accepted, and this desire to be loved, and that is an authentic human driver. I mean, the problem is we've just been raised with those stereotypical views of what men should be and what masculinity is, and often it's a mask of bravado, and the controller and the dominator and the tough guy and the guy who doesn't show his feelings, and all that bullshit. And because of that, there's fear in being seen when a man gets older. There's fear in showing his hidden, suppressed side. It's a fucking scary condition to be in, having the fear of being seen. I have a few friends, old friends, and they really admire my life. And sometimes I remember one friend actually who's had a pretty horrific life of trauma. I suggested to him that I would take him on a trip around the world, because he's very, very open-minded, loves castles, loves nature, loves to talk about religions. He's open-minded, yet just a normal guy in Wigan with his troubles. And I almost booked the flight and we applied for his passport, but in the end he didn't come.
Mm-hmm.
He just didn't have the confidence to come. He was too scared to come. He was too scared to go out of his everyday comfort zone. And there's just a deep, deep belief in many men that life is the way it is and they have no choice.
Mm.
And it's a pity, it's a shame.
Like a default purpose, really, isn't it?
Yeah, and then they turn to addictions, and yeah, it's just, it's a fear of being seen. And ultimately, we could say that suicide's that. It's a fear that if you really show yourself, you'll be humiliated by the tribe and punished. And it's not true.
It's not true. You know, I think, you know, for anyone listening to this conversation and, you know, anyone who's maybe even considering suicide, you know, there's ways out, isn't there? You know, there is help out there, and sometimes there's this mantra, it's okay to not be okay, but it's just a matter of reaching out and just talking. You know, I know just releasing guilt and shame, the best way to do that is just to talk to somebody, isn't it? And
yeah, and with the work that we do, Martin, with men, and this is a generalization. You know, in most cases, your family is not the type of environment to release all your demons and your shame and to be open with. I recommend having a group outside of the family. You know, you can still be open with your family to a degree, but it's really, really beneficial, you know, as a woman to have a circle of women, or as a man to have a circle of men, or a mixed circle of people that you feel incredibly safe with. And you can just talk and just start to explore what's going on inside of you. Often, in my opinion, the family is not the best place for that, and the intimate partner isn't the best person for that. We need a trusted group outside of that. Then we can hold space in relationship. We can hold space for our family.
You know, just sort of what was popping into my mind there, I suppose it's been the pub, really, that's probably saved a lot of men's lives. You know, just going to the pub, having a couple of pints, and I suppose when you're having a couple of pints, it actually loosens you up a little bit, doesn't it? And you know, I can really, you know, look back on my own story, and I suppose you can relate to this. Is that, you know, when you have a few pints, you're a bit loose, and you're able to just be a lot more vulnerable. You know, talk about your stuff, and you feel lighter for it, don't you?
You do, but it doesn't change the patterns.
Yeah.
Because it's masked by the alcohol.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And it's having a container, really, isn't it? A safe container. And this is where we come back to, you know, maybe community, yoga, meditation, you know, or, you know, some of these clubs maybe around Liverpool, for anyone listening, you know, it's about just getting involved, isn't it? You know what I mean? And it's sometimes it is scary meeting new people. You know, a lot of people, they have a container of, these are my mates from school, and no one gets in, no one gets out. And it really, you know, there's a lot of people out there that we haven't met yet. And to celebrate new relationships and new possibilities, you know, it's, I mean, for me, from my own perspective, I've met so many new people over the last few years, and formed new connections, authentic relationships with others, you know, including yourself, men, and some of it's been organically, you know, it's just been an organic happening, and other of it's been more of a willingness to meet new people, you know what I mean, and almost a starving, you know, to access some elders in my life, some people who are going to demonstrate the qualities of how to actually behave as a man. I think nowadays the demonstration in society, it's wounded, isn't it?
Yeah, we don't have we don't seem to have a lot of role models as men in our lives. Certainly. Well, I used to think that, actually. It's an interesting one. I used to think I didn't have role models, but when I look back, I never had the ideal role model. But now I have enough awareness to realise that this man, this rugby coach, this teacher, and that one actually I can take that from him, that from him, that from him, that from him, that from him. And I realised that within those role models, there was an excellent man.
Yeah.
There was a great man.
Absolutely.
But we're raised to kind of put it on one man. I mean, poor mum and dad, in everybody's life, there's so much pressure on mum and dad, Society puts so much pressure on mum and dad to be perfect.
Yeah.
And sometimes you might not have a great dad, but if you're really willing to look, you might realise that there are other role models in your life. But we put the pressure on dad because we believe we should have the perfect dad. And life would probably be easier if we went back to tribal times where kids were raised by not only mum and dad but grandma and granddad and the different families, and there were multiple role models around. But the kind of nuclear family puts so much pressure on mum and dad to be perfect, and for the child to believe that if mum wasn't like that, she was a bad mum, and if dad wasn't like that, he was a bad dad. The more people in a child's life, the better, really.
Yeah. And no child really gets out of childhood unscathed with wounding, to a degree or other. But yeah, I just maybe referencing my friend Gavin Kendrick here, and I know he goes to Gabon a lot, and that sort of that tribe, that where everything's really open, and the children are getting their needs met, not just by mother and father, but by aunties, uncles, with the children. And it's a great way to be raised, isn't it? To be a lot more, I suppose, collaborative living, you know what I mean? But we've been domesticated, unfortunately, in the West, haven't we? We live in boxes, we work in boxes, so we're losing this connection to nature, to naturalness. And I know you're a big big advocate of getting out in nature. I know you love the mountains, and so as we sort of start to round this up, what's next for you?
Well, just going on nature, just a quick one on nature. I mean, there's so many therapies and modalities around at the moment, and it's great on one hand. However, really the fastest way to recalibrate and to settle and to feel integrated and not separate from life is to reconnect with nature.
Yeah.
Go and swim in the ocean, go and walk on the beach, go and walk in the mountains, and we look for the red magic bullet pill, but nature really is probably the best healer I could ever recommend.
It's our greatest teacher as well, really, isn't it? That there's I think stillness alone, to go into nature and to see everything so still yet alive. The Mother Nature, the mother, Gaia, or whatever, whatever labels it's got, it's there to teach us really how to be. The elements are a wonderful way of learning how to navigate our situation as natural as possible. I think our mind, it's our greatest asset, but it's also the origin of conflict. And when we're dramatizing and identifying and almost getting swept up, by the mind from a lack of mental fitness, it takes us away from this naturalness, doesn't it? It takes us away of a level of flow and a level of synchronicity and a level of connection, which we are designed for. We're designed to love, aren't we?
For sure.
We're designed to come together, to co-create, to fundamentally be together. And so, it's powerful stuff. And anyone listening to the conversation, I hope you're really getting a sense of maybe the magic of Craig's story here, and the magic of just taking a look at oneself and using certain modalities, of coming together, community, getting into the body, embodiments, yoga, meditation, education. I know Craig, he still explores other mentors, and he spends money on going on retreats and going on workshops and events. He's been in London with Dr. Demartini. I know he was in California with another spiritual coach, David Deida, not long last year, and again moving forward and going on another course with Dr. DiMartini. So there's a thirst for just exploring oneself and to continue to mature into oneself and be the best version of yourself. And the beauty of this is that you're sharing these gifts with the world. There's an element of divine selflessness here, and yeah, it's authentic and it's natural. So what's next for you then, Craig? Just moving forward, this year, moving.
Yeah, well, from a learning perspective, I'm continuing to learn with Dr. DiMartini, and I'm also going to move towards becoming a certified breathwork facilitator. On a professional level, at the moment, because I'm kind of this solitary mentor, I'm actually worried that I don't have space for the clients that want to work with me. So I'm going to create a group mentorship journey where I'm working with groups at the same time, which is a combination of face-to-face, online retreats, and looking at producing an online program, a 12-month accreditation program around interpersonal skills for sports practitioners. And within Men Without Masks, as I said, we do retreats. We're doing a higher level retreat now, a King retreat, and one-day workshops, and also looking at producing an online program for Men Without Masks.
Wow. And these are all the things that literally light you up.
Yeah.
It's a joy for you to explore all of these avenues in your life. And I suppose the magic formula is like, you're doing what you love to do. You're creating a container for people to learn and be educated and to thrive. And then in the middle, actually, you're getting paid in the process. And
it's a win-win, Martin.
It's a win-win.
I've managed to create a win-win life. It's took a while, but yeah, I won't commit to anything now unless it's a win-win.
Yeah. And that's really available to everybody, isn't it? It's a mindset, it's a perspective, and it doesn't come overnight. However, when you, I suppose, start to take a look at yourself, I call it the work. You get up every day and you go into work, but you go into work at you. Mm-hmm. You're that first base. Whether it's an ultimate morning program, and when you go into work, this inner purpose of looking after oneself. And then, moving into that outer purpose, being in the world, exploring what's alive for you, exploring the things that light you up and the things that, I know you're having so much fun in the process as well. And we sit here today and we're talking about your life and, in one hand, you bewilder me with your story and everything that you've ever explored. And then in the other, we're just mates, you know what I mean? We're just having a laugh, and we had a couple of beers last night, and we're just, we connect on a really simple, playful level. And I, for one, I'm really excited for how things are going to keep unfolding for your life, and I'm really fortunate enough to be in the dynamic of a lot of the work that you're involved in, and it's helped me to step up as a person. It's helped me to really grow my own business here in Liverpool, and there's a ripple effect. So many other people are thriving because of the person I've become today, the man I've become. So yeah, it's been a really it's been a riveting conversation for me. It's been a pleasure to have you here, and I love hanging out with you. We've got so many explorations and adventures to explore in the future, but I'm really grateful for the stuff that we've done in the past as well. So thank you for sharing your story, Craig, and anyone listening today. I hope you've been inspired. It's and this is what these conversations are about. It's about being educated, being re-educated, and maybe looking at life from a different perspective, and knowing that actually life can change. You just gotta, have the courage, have a bit of courage to do something about your own existence. And some of it's not easy, but it's definitely worth it. So again, thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure, Martin. If anybody's interested to find out more about me, you can check out Craig White Mentoring or Men Without Masks on Facebook and Instagram.
That's right, yeah. And
I've got a new website, which is not ready yet, which is going to be called Craig White Mentoring, and you can check out also menwithoutmasks.com.
Yeah, definitely, and I would invite people to check Craig out. He is active on his social media, and yeah, he's just an all round amazing man, amazing person. That if you do, explore some of the things he's offering, then you will only benefit, and become a very, very mature human being and a well-rounded, enthused person in this life. So and
just one final tip from me. One final tip from me would be, life is a fucking challenge. So choose your challenges wisely and choose a challenge that lights you up and is going to make a difference in the world. Not everybody has to go on an extreme journey of self-discovery. You can explore avenues of self-discovery. If you're a father, if you're a mother, if you have kids, I don't have an immediate family. I don't have a wife. I don't have any children. So it was important for me to find challenges elsewhere. But you can find challenges within the confines of your own dynamic on a daily basis. You don't have to go to the hills of the Himalayas.
Wonderful. Wise words. Thank you, Craig.
Thank you,
Martin. See you again.
Pleasure.
Goodbye. Creating Space is sponsored by the Scouse Guru app, an all-purpose meditation app that feeds into all your needs, developing peace of mind, increasing mental focus, lowering stress levels while discovering inner stillness, awakening your potential and educating you on all matters related to human behaviour and personal development. Download the app for free on the App Store or get it on Google Play today.